folks, we're going to take a look at designing my Blood Angels successors. Well, actually, a little bit more to it than that, if I'm being completely honest with you. I want to just sort of show a quick little demonstration in design philosophy in general, really, when it comes to, in this case, custom Space Marine chapters, but there are probably ideas and principles here that you could apply to other things. What I basically want to do is break down how I came up with the ideas that relate to my Blood Angel successor chapter, what I was thinking, why I was thinking it, how I implemented that design, and then producing a test piece, which I could then sort of use to gauge what was good about the painting process, what was not so great about the painting process, what was time efficient, what wasn't time efficient, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of information that you can put together to help you design a custom Space Marine chapter, custom Sisters of Battle order, custom Tyranid High Fleet, custom fucking anything you want, really. Let's get on with it. Okay, first things first, I like to think about what's going to lead my design, whether it's going to be the story behind what I'm doing, or whether it's going to be, you know, practicality, colour choices, things like that. So here, as you can see, I've started to plan out different ideas for colour things, and I'm thinking all the time here about stuff that's going to be easy to paint. Easy to paint is kind of what I need for my design choices. And story I'm going to kind of let come to me later. So, it's a Space Marine chapter, and it's pretty straightforward to, come up with some pretty typical pokes here and there for how to deal with storylines. So I wasn't too worried about that. Mostly just wanted something that was practical to paint and would look cool. First thing I wanted to do, actually, despite saying let's paint there in that little bit of text, is look at this app called ImpCat, which has been recommended to me a million times recently, and I thought it might be time to actually have a look into it. You have to fanny around a bit getting these 3D files into it, which involves transferring to your phone from your PC and stuff, but you can see here, once you do get into it, it's got a fucking huge colour catalogue, and you can basically just pick bits of the miniature that you've loaded the 3D file of, and you can colour them. Which is obviously super cool, super helpful for getting an idea of what your paint scheme is going to look like on something that actually looks like the thing you're going to be painting. So you can see here I'm just sort of plotting in what I initially thought I was going to do for my colour scheme. I end up making some changes to this, but I was getting my ideas, and that's kind of what this is really useful for. You can try different things and switch them around, and if you don't like this or don't like that, then you don't have to use it. You see here the red helmet, that was one of the first things that I changed. Decided I didn't want that. But anyway, let's take that as good enough for now, and let's start doing some painting. You can see I've got a clock in the top of the screen here. I wanted to show you how long I actually spent working here, and it ended up being, it was under an hour, it was 40 odd minutes I believe, which is not a bad shout. I'm just basically trying to put everything that I'd planned in ImpCat there into practice on a test miniatures. This is a proof of concept. I'm not necessarily trying to do the best job possible of this. I'm trying to kind of paint it how I would paint it if I was batch painting, to give me a rough idea of how long it's going to take me to paint a bunch of these miniatures. Obviously, because my concerns were mostly practical, that's the kind of big thing that I have to think about. So I'm kind of chucking the paint on in the same sort of way that I would if I was batch painting, and just trying to kind of get it down and get an idea in my head of what's good about this colour scheme, what I need to think about a little bit more, where I can save time, that kind of thing. And I get a pretty good impression of all of that from this process. It's something I really like to do before I start painting an idea, is just do one proof of concept miniature. And I find it very, very helpful just in general for sort of lubricating ideas and being part of my sort of standard working process. And as I got to the end of it here, so you can see we're coming up to 11:48 now, 11:49, and about 11:50 there is where I stop. So yeah, about 48 minutes it took in total. And this is what I ended up with. I learned a few things from this straight away. First of all, check for fucking mould lines, because if you're going to Nuln Oil over an entire miniature, something that doesn't look like an obvious mould line might look obvious, so I'm going to need to make sure I'm super careful for mould lines. That's the thing that I've learned. Black undercoat before that silver. I think the silver would look a lot nicer if it had a black underneath it. I'm not super happy with how that looks. Nuln Oil before the red. I ended up having to touch the red up after the null oil with like 3 or 4 coats, so waste of time doing the red, then null oil, and then doing the red again. And the last thing is, I don't actually think the lava and underlighting is great for this silver workup. I don't think it's the best use of it. The silver doesn't really show it off with the impact that I want. So this proof of concept was really handy for gathering all of that information. I now feel more armed when I go forward to paint the army, which is great. So there, yeah, that's how I did it. It's very easy, I'm not going to lie, to look at my scheme and say, you just did that because it's easy to paint, didn't you? Honest truth, yeah, the main motivator for me was making it easy to paint. That's kind of the main reason that I do a lot of my stuff for my own miniatures, because, I mean, if I just look at my desk right now, for example, I've got Blade Guard Captain Commission here, I've got another Blade Guard Captain Commission here. If I look right behind me within arm's reach, I've got regimental advisors for Imperial Guard right here. You know, I've got stuff that's about to arrive in the post. Like, so much of my working time is spent painting other people's miniatures that if I'm going to come up with colour schemes for my own miniatures, they have to be simple to execute. Nothing says simple to execute quite as much as spraying something silver, null oil in it, and then putting accents on it. So for me, it's the main design cue. It's the main thing that I have to think of when I'm coming up with how and why I want to do things. But your motivations might be different. And using these same design principles, you can probably still get to a place where you're happy, where you're doing what you want to do. So hopefully you can take that away from this video. You can feel a little bit more empowered to come up with some original designs and hopefully get to a good place with your own miniatures, at least from that design perspective. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this one, folks. It was a really fun one for me to create because it was more about just getting inside my head and discussing my processes. So I hope that you enjoyed it and I hope that you found it useful. Please, if you did like it, don't forget to click that like button on the video. That helps with visibility. If you like the content I make in general and want to know when I'm making more, then please subscribe to the channel. That costs you nothing and again also really helps me with visibility. And finally, if you do wish to support me and the things that I create, please do check out my Patreon in the links below. It is brand new and re-energized and reinvigorated and full of value, and I hope that I can bring you something extra that you'll really like there. So my lovelies, bye bye for now and I'll see you in the next one.